Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a story that's been hiding in the shadows of history. We're talking about a radical, materialist school of thought from ancient India that had the guts to challenge the entire spiritual establishment. Let's dive into the lost world of the Charvaka. Just think about that for a second. In the very heart of ancient, spiritual India, a place that gave us so many profound religious ideas, what if a philosophy popped up that just said nope to all of it? No karma, no soul, not even God. This wasn't just a small debate. This was an all-out philosophical rebellion. And that was the world of the Charvaka. So who exactly were these rebels? Well, they were the Charvakas, sometimes called the Lokayata. And their ideas were so revolutionary and honestly so appealing that one of their nicknames was the Sweet Talkers, which kind of tells you how persuasive they must have been. Okay, let's unpack these names because they're really interesting. They were called sweet talkers because, let's face it, a philosophy based on worldly pleasure sounds pretty good, right? But another theory is that the name comes from the word to chew, which perfectly fits their focus on the tangible, material world. You know, the stuff you can literally sink your teeth into. And that other name, Lokayata, basically means of the people, showing just how popular these down-to-earth ideas were. And you know, these guys weren't some small fringe group. They really got their act together around the 6th century B.C.E., which was this incredible time of philosophical energy in India. They were right there in the mix with early Buddhists and Jains, debating the biggest questions of life. But while others were talking about reincarnation and self-denial, the Charvakas were the ones standing up and saying, hold on, this life, right here, right now, is the only one that matters. So let's get to the core of it. How did they land on such a completely different worldview? Well, it all boiled down to one incredibly simple but totally profound rule about what you can actually call truth. This right here, this is the bedrock of their entire philosophy. For a Charvaka, if you couldn't directly perceive something with your 5 senses, it wasn't real knowledge. End of story. They said that inference, guessing based on evidence, was just a leap in the dark. And testimony, believing something just because a priest or a sacred book told you to, for them, that was the most unreliable source of all, maybe even a deliberate trick. All right, let's walk through a classic example from Indian logic to see how this actually works. So the standard thinking goes like this. You're looking out and you see smoke coming up from a distant hill. And so naturally, you infer that there has to be a fire. Seems totally logical, doesn't it? But a Charvaka would stop you right there and ask, are you 100% certain just from seeing that smoke? And their answer would be a firm not necessarily. That smoke could be fog. It could be a dust cloud. It could be steam. Unless you walk over there and see the flames with your own eyes, your knowledge is just a guess. For the Charvakas, only direct perception gives you certainty. Everything else is just speculation. Now here's where it gets really wild. What happens when you take that single principle, that only what you can perceive is real, and apply it to everything? Well, you basically end up taking apart reality as everyone knew it, piece by piece, stripping away anything supernatural. And this just lays it all out. It's like they went down a checklist of all the major spiritual beliefs of the time. Can you see a soul that's separate from a body? Nope. Can you perceive God? Nope. What about karma or heaven or hell? Absolutely not. So with this relentless logic, the Charvakas just rejected all of it. To them, these weren't deep truths. They were just claims without proof. So what was real then? Only the 4 elements you could actually experience: earth, water, fire, and air. That's it. They even threw out the 5th traditional element, ether, or space, because you can't perceive it. They argued that everything, and I mean everything, even our own consciousness, is just something that emerges when these 4 elements combine in a body. It's kind of like how the intoxicating quality of wine isn't in any single ingredient, but arises from the mixture. For them, when the body dies, consciousness just... Okay, so if you believe all that the world is only material, and this life is all you get, then what's the point? Well, this led to their most famous and definitely most scandalous idea. Their answer was a total slap in the face to the ascetics of their time. This quote says it all, doesn't it? Live joyously, right now, while you can. Because death is final. There's no coming back. It's not a call to be reckless, but a really powerful reminder to embrace the one precious and finite life that we have. And they did not hold back when it came to organized religion. They basically called it a scam, a system invented by clever priests to make a living by taking advantage of people's fears and hopes about the afterlife. So you can see how this creates a whole new guide to living. They looked at the four traditional goals of life and just flipped them on their head. Spiritual duty or dharma? Nope, that's just following rules someone else made up. Liberation or moksha? Forget it. For them, pleasure, kama, was the #1 goal, and wealth, artha, was just the tool you used to get there. It's a philosophy completely centered on human happiness in the here and now. So this brings up a huge question. If this philosophy was so popular and so powerful, why isn't it a household name today? Well, the answer is pretty dark. It's about the price they paid for their rebellion. And this is the real tragedy of the Charvaka school. Their own books, their foundational texts where they laid out their arguments in their own words, they're gone, lost or, more likely, destroyed over the centuries. That's a huge piece of intellectual history that we'll probably never get back. And here's the ultimate irony. The main reason we know anything about these great skeptics is because their enemies wrote about them just so they could argue against them. Imagine trying to understand a rebellion by only reading the government reports about it. That's the situation we're in. But here's the amazing thing. Even without their own books, their ideas never really died. They just echo through time. That insistence on direct proof, that's the foundation of modern empiricism and the scientific method. Their constant questioning of authority, that's the very soul of skepticism. And their focus on human well-being in this life, that's a huge part of what we now call secular humanism. So I'll leave you with this to think about. The Charvakas demanded to see the proof for themselves, with their own eyes. In our world today, where we are just flooded with information from the internet, from experts, from everywhere, what would they think? How much of what you and I know to be true would actually pass their simple, radical test? Have you seen it for yourself?